Nanda Jayadvaita Chandra Jaya Gaurabhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jayadvaita Chandra Jaya Gaurabhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jayadvaita Chandra Jaya Gaurabhakta Vrinda Om Agyanatimirandasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Tadamayam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruhu Shri Yuta Padagamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaganadvaita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimati Ramanatha Swami Nitinami Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinami Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharya Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschalya Patient Kam Karoti Vacharam Pangam Nande Degriyat Padamaham Mande Shri Gurum Dintaranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hare Krishna. So welcome back. Sorry, my schedules are a bit jumping up and down here and there. Too many things. So sometimes, even though I intend to do a class, I suddenly realize I cannot. So please tolerate me for another few weeks until I'm back. So we are fortunate to be able to discuss the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya today. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami starts the chapter, 14th chapter. Actually, today's chapter is actually entitled The Childhood Pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. As we discussed, for the first 12 chapters, so many tattva discussions on who's Lord Chaitanya, who are their associates, what is the reason for the Lord's appearance, and so many other aspects, including the broad description of the tree of Lord Chaitanya. All these wonderful things have been discussed. And now we are getting into discussion of the pastimes of the Lord. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains in the previous chapter where he discussed about the advent, the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. He says, now I'm going to chronologically describe the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Starting with Adi Lila, going to Madhya Lila and Antya Lila. So Adi Lila, as we discussed, are pastimes right from his appearance and all the way into his Grihastha pastimes and his Sankirtan pastimes in Bengal, leading all the way up to his sannyas. Then, of course, sannyas and his travels in Madhya Lila. And the last 18 years of his manifest pastimes in Jagannath Puri will be in the Antya Lila. So after the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, which we discussed in our last session, this particular chapter summarizes the childhood of the Lord. Now, the childhood pastimes of the Lord are very, very sweet and very, very interesting, with such wonderful parallels to the pastimes of Lord Krishna. And today, as we discuss through many of these pastimes, you will be able to recollect and relate to the beautiful transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, which are very similar in nature. Of course, not surprising, because Lord Chaitanya is none other than Krishna himself. Krishna together with Radharani. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahiyan. But before we get into the childhood pastimes, chapter 14, there's an interesting piece of information which I have somehow by Krishna's arrangement, I didn't find out, but that was a question which I had in my mind, which Krishna somehow gave that answer to me without my seeking it out. And that question, which I had mentioned in our last class, was in the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. There were 8 daughters who were born to Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata, who passed away soon after their birth. And then Vishwarupa was born, who's Baldev, and then Lord Chaitanya came. Very similar like Krishna, where the first six children were killed soon after their birth. Then Baladev comes, and then Krishna comes. Very similar. And this question was raised. I do not know whether Suraj or somebody else asked this question. I think it was perhaps Suraj. And I told that I don't know very specifically what the answer to that question is. And that question was that, who are these 8 daughters? There is a pastime about Krishna's appearance that those 6 children were actually the 6 previously in the previous lifetime Kamsa's own children, where he was cursed that he will kill his own children. And I don't want to go into the details of that pastime now, because today there is so much to discuss. I don't know whether I'll be able to complete this chapter. So many beautiful pastimes. But there is a particular history that how those children were actually Kamsa's own children in a previous birth, and he killed his own children without knowing it. Of course, at a philosophical level, those 6 children are representatives of the 6 anarthas in our heart. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsara. This is Krishna's pastime. In Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, certain acharyas in our Gaudiya parampara, certain great sannyasis, gurus, they have said that these 8 daughters were actually the 8 sakhis who appeared. Srimati Radharani's immediate assistants, sakhis, her very close friends, are 8 very transcendental gopis who are known as the Ashta Sakhis. If you remember, in Mayapur, we have Radha Madhav together with the Ashta Sakhis standing on the altar. Lila, Vishakha, Tunda Vidya, Sudevi, Indulekha, Rangadevi, and so on and so forth. We have given Indulekha Matashir in the class. Yeah. So, like that, there are 8 Sakhis. So it is said when Radharani was supposed to appear, the 8 Sakhis also decided to appear to assist her in her pastimes. But then something interesting happened. When the Ashta Sakhis, they understood that, oh, Radharani is not going to appear alone. This incarnation of Radharani is together with Krishna. It is combined. Combined Radha Krishna incarnation. So all these Ashta Sakhis apparently decided that no, we will not appear as sisters of Radharani here. So they decided to leave those bodies and they decided to appear as other associates of Lord Chaitanya. They were still present in the past time, but each of the Sakhis appeared as different other personalities. Vishakha appeared as Ramanand Rai, Lalita appeared as Swarup Damodar, and so on and so forth. All the Sakhis, all the Ashta Sakhis. So this explanation is given by a couple of spiritual masters. There is no strong Shastric reference to this particular explanation. But this is what we know. So this is the explanation I'm just sharing with you. And some of these understandings are actually deeper insights which are gained by very advanced realized souls or heard from other realized souls who reveal some of these understandings. So sometimes some things may not always be revealed in books, but if they're shared by gurus and acharyas, then in good faith, we accept them. So that's just one thing that I wanted to just share with you. So summarily, those 8 daughters who passed away soon after birth, the first 8 daughters of Jagannath Misra and Sachi Mata were none other than the Ashta sons. So chapter 14, which is after the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, after his birth under the neem tree, this particular chapter 14 is devoted to summarizing the childhood pastimes of the Lord. Now, this particular chapter is practically a summarized version of Chaitanya Bhagavat. What may be given in chapters or many verses in Chaitanya Bhagavat is narrated in one verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, by briefly hinting that this is the pastime that happened. So, some of these pastimes are very briefly recorded here, but for the benefit of all of us, I will try to narrate these pastimes in a bit more detail. So even though the chapter itself is slightly less than 100 verses, I don't want to rush through these pastimes just based on the one-liner. With your permission, I want to describe some of these pastimes in a little bit more detail, because I've been hearing these pastimes for over 30 years now, and very beautifully from the lotus lips of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, so attached to Gaur Lila. And some of these pastimes are like etched in my memory as if I have seen them, because Maharaj narrates so graphically that some of these pastimes are so clearly in front of my mind's eye. Of course, I'm not saying that I'm seeing those pastimes. It's in my, based on his description, whatever I have, heard, it obviously creates a mental image of how it would have been. So, I'm going to share that. So, if you're reading the chapters, you may suddenly be surprised, oh, where are all these details coming from? Of course, Srila Prabhupada in some of these verses mentions those pastimes briefly in the purport itself, and he comments to say that this detail comes from Chaitanya Bhagavat. So we'll stick to roughly that level of detail. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's childhood pastimes were very amazing. Like Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very naughty boy in his early years. So all this naughtiness in all living entities, because we are part and parcel of Krishna, is also coming from him. There's a certain kind of a fun within naughtiness. Even though naughtiness at a particular level appears to be disruptive and, troubling others. Yes, at a material level, perhaps that may be true in most of the cases. But we should understand within the context of Krishna, because in the transcendental realm, there is all goodness, there is no inability of any kind of material contamination. All these display of what seems like negative behavior or negative emotions is just an expression of love meant to increase the love, the flavor of the love between the Lord and his devotees. So just like Krishna would do so many naughty things, break pots, steal butter, do all kinds of things, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has similar or equivalent pastimes. So we will be discussing them as well. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami starts this chapter by saying, it is so important to remember Lord Chaitanya, because simply by remembering Lord Chaitanya, those things which are very difficult to execute in this world for us become very easy. But if you don't remember Lord Chaitanya, those things which are very easy can also become very difficult. It's a very interesting thing. That's why we say Lord Chaitanya is Namo Mahavadanyaya. Mahavadanyaya. Why Mahavadanyaya? Extremely merciful. He gives what no other form of the Lord ever gave before. Very, very easy. So that Krishna Prem, which is very difficult to attain, that Ras Lila, that Vraja Prem, which is extremely rare and difficult to attain, becomes easily attained when one remembers Lord Chaitanya and attains his favor. That is why it's so important. That's why we are remembering Lord Chaitanya. That's why we can even talk about these kind of topics, because even though we are so unqualified, when this most highest of attainments becomes possible for us, because we are seeking the mercy. That's why always before we chant, before we do worship, we are always remembering Lord Chaitanya and his associates. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, now I'm going to describe the childhood pastimes of the Lord in a chronological sequence. Of course, I'm just going to give you a synopsis. I'm not going to go in detail. Again, why? Because it has been already described in Chaitanya. He warns the readers, do not think, even though sometimes Lord Chaitanya, and just like Krishna, behaves like an ordinary child, a mischievous child, one should not be bewildered into thinking that he's ordinary. Please always remember, I've already explained. I took 12 chapters to explain to you who's Lord Chaitanya. So do not think, oh, he did like that. Oh, I was also doing like that. Oh, yes, wonderful. Our naughtiness is not equivalent to Krishna's naughtiness. Krishna's naughtiness is the source of all pleasure. Simply by remembering Krishna's naughtiness, one can be delivered from material existence. And that is not so true for our mundane activities. So it is said right from the very earliest days of Lord Chaitanya's appearance, the first thing was that when the Lord was very, very small, his parents started observing something very wonderful. One day, it is said that Sachimata observed that there are many footprints all over the house, small, small footprints. And when she observed the footprints, she observed, oh, on these footprints, there are the marks of Lord Vishnu, the flag, the thunderbolt, the conch shell, the disc, the fish, Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, Matsya, and so many other marks, but these are the prominent ones. So she was so excited. Oh, Lord Vishnu is walking around in our house. She was so excited. She called her husband Jagannath Mishra. And she was asking, how is it possible? Lord Vishnu is walking around in our home. And they were discussing. At that time, Lord Chaitanya, a little toddler, who was just about started, Utthana. Utthana means he had just about started to turn around on his side, put his feet on the ground, attempt to crawl, sometimes attempt to stand up and fall. He suddenly woke up. Nimai woke up and he began to cry. So as they were discussing, suddenly Mother Sachi comes and picks up this little child and keeps him on the lap and starts feeding him her milk. And as this is happening and as they are discussing, oh, how come these marks are coming? Jagannath Mishra is saying, perhaps the Shaligram Shila that we are worshipping in our home is so pleased with our devotion that the Shaligram Shila is taking the form of a little boy Gopal and is walking around in our house. Otherwise, how else this kind of marks will come? And as they were discussing like this, and as Mother Sachi was feeding the little boy on her lap, and Lord Chaitanya was, moving his legs around, the beautiful lotus feet of the Lord came in front of the eyes of Mother Sachi, And she suddenly saw that the marks which are coming on the footprints in the house, the same marks which are on the lotus feet of her little Nimai. She was shocked. Oh, she told Jagannath Mishra, come, see, what is this? This is extraordinary. Jagannath Mishra saw the marks on the soul. He became so joyful. And, he quickly called for Mother Sachi's father, Nilambar Chakravarti, who was actually a very learned person, a great scholar and a great astrologer. And he came and he saw. When he saw his file, he said, yes, previously through my astrological calculations based on the birth chart of the child, I had already ascertained that this child is a very great personality. And I had already noted all these things. So noted down that this boy has all the 32 bodily characteristics which are the symptoms of a great person. And I can see all these marks within the personality of this small baby. So it is said in the Shastras that great personalities often have up to 32 bodily symptoms. Up to 32. It's not necessary that each person has all of them, but up to 32 bodily symptoms. So it is said 5 parts of the body of a great personality are large. 5 parts of his body are very fine. 7 are reddish in color. 6 are raised. 3 parts of his characteristics are small. 3 are broad and 3 are grave. Now, I'm sure all of you will be very curious. What are these various characteristics? I don't want to go into that too much detail, otherwise you'll not be able to discuss the past. And maybe later I will share a link where you can read about these 32 parts. Of course, the first thing we will all do is try to compare whether any of these apply to us. So if you have any tally there, you can let me know. I'll be happy to find out how many of you have long earlobes, broad foreheads, hands touching up to the knees, and so on and so forth. There are all these characteristics. Up to 32, and I'm saying, yeah, maybe, very likely that some of you may have some of these characteristics because you're all great souls. But Lord Chaitanya manifested all the 32 characters, all. Because these all 32 are present only in the personality of the Supreme Personality of God. Or very, very few rare exalted souls. Great personalities like Arjuna, Uddhava, and others also displayed. I don't know if all, but at least a majority. I'm not sure whether they displayed all characteristics or not. But they displayed quite a few. Srila Prabhupada, such big earlobes, very broad forehead. There are certain characteristics of the palms of the hand, the soles of the feet, the skin, the voice, the chest, the neck, so on and so forth. So he says, I can see this baby, Nilambar Chakravarti is telling Jagannath Mishra, has all the symptoms of Lord Narayan on his palms and his soles. He has all the marks. This is one of the ways in which people in general can ascertain a genuine incarnation of the Lord. There are 3 ways in which an incarnation of the Lord can be ascertained. First and the foremost is that the incarnation must be predicted in the scriptures. Because the Lord just doesn't come, He doesn't just say one fine morning, oh yes, let me go to Hyderabad and, I'm so bored, I'll just spend some time and just take an incarnation and come. The Lord is not like us, very, whimsical. Of course, he's free to do that if he wants to. But generally the Lord, and very, very special episodes, sometimes the Lord will spontaneously appear as a Lila avatar to save his devotee and all that. But otherwise, scheduled incarnations, especially the ones like Yuga avatar, which Lord Chaitanya is, are very pre-planned, scheduled incarnations. So these are predicted in the scriptures because the scriptures know so many people will try to impersonate and try to show themselves as incarnations of the Lord. So one is to be predicted in the scriptures. The second thing is that they have the bodily characteristics of the Supreme Personality of God, especially on the soles of their hand and on the soles of the feet and these kind of 32 bodily symptoms. So if any of you have any doubt, please look at your feet, the soles of your feet, and check whether you find Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma and the fish. And if you find, please take a photo and post it on our WhatsApp group, then we will validate. Please do not try to become like Poundrak, who drew all these things on his feet and said, I am incarnation of Krishna. He was a big imposter. So that's the second characteristic. And the third characteristic is they are able to do extraordinary activities, which normal living entities cannot do. Krishna lifted over the hill. Lord Ram, even in his childhood, did so many wonderful things. At the age of 14, he killed so many demons. Very, very extraordinary. He broke the bow at such a, in his early teens, if I'm not wrong, he broke the bow of Lord Shiva. When he was, in a very playful way. So it's a very, very extraordinary. So incarnation of the Lord do very, very extraordinary things, which Lord Chaitanya also did. Which we'll discuss later in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In fact, the same 7 tal trees which Lord Ram had pierced in his incarnation as Lord Ramchandra, Lord Chaitanya, when he appeared, he embraced all of them and made them disappear. So, in many ways, Lord Chaitanya has shown that he is non-different from Ram and Krishna. Because, of course, ultimately, it's the same personality, same supreme person. So, these are the 3 things. Again, to quickly recap, prediction in the scriptures. Second, bodily characteristics, specific bodily characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And third is extraordinary activities. So here he says, Nilamba Chakravarti says, I see all 32. This person is very extraordinary. He will be able, from astrological calculation, I can see he can deliver all the 3 worlds. He'll preach devotional service, the Vaishnava cult, and deliver both his maternal and paternal families. So I'm proposing, let us quickly do his Namakaran ceremony right now. Let us call him Vishwambhar, the one who nourishes the whole universe. So Vishwambhar is the formal, official name. Just like sometimes we have so many names, no? Swatiji is asking voice issue. Is everybody else able to hear? I think Swatiji is struggling. Are the others able to hear me clearly?
Yes, Prabhuji.
No problem.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Swatiji, you have to please check, or maybe you can disconnect and connect back, or you can try to check from YouTube if you are getting the audio a bit better. So he gave him the name Vishwambhara. So Vishwambhar is the official name. So the official name of Lord Chaitanya on paper, his first name is Vishwambhar and his last name is Mishra. Vishwambhar Mishra. His father's name is Jagannath Mishra. So Vishwambhar means he who nourishes the whole universe. So Nimai was a pet name. So he was called as Nimai because he was born under the neem tree, and also, as we discussed, Sita Thakurani gave that name to him so that he may be protected from any evil ghosts and spirits. So Jagannath Mishra, Sachi Mata, they, based on the advice of Nilamba Chakravarti, they gathered all the Brahmanas and their wives came and they observed a beautiful Namakaran ceremony. It was a very, very wonderful, joyous festival. So that's how the Namakaran ceremony of the Lord happened. So by this time, Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata already had a hint that this person is not an ordinary person. This is an extraordinary person. But the nature of love of these kind of associates of the Lord, these Ragatmika Bhaktas, these eternal associates who have very spontaneous loving affection for the Lord, even though sometimes they become aware of the extraordinary opulence of the Lord. Oh, he's great, he's the greatest, he's the God of everything. The nature of that love, of their love is such that over time they forget. Forget not in the sense like we forget. Radharani Maharaj says that they are not forgetful the way we forget, oh, Krishna is God. Sometimes we start thinking, I am only God, I am the controller. We forget Krishna is God. Not that kind of forgetting. But their affection for Krishna or Mahaprabhu is so much that their relationship, their personal relationship with the Lord becomes the prominent understanding for them, rather than who this personality is for the whole existence. So for Sachimata and Jagannath Mishra, Vishwambar was their son more than God. So for them, oh, my son Vishwambar also happens to be God, but actually is my son. That kind of a thing. And being God is, secondary for them. So, of course, they continue to treat him as their own affectionate son, the same way Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj would do. So, as the Lord started growing in his pastimes, now this growing pastime only happens in the material world. This is something we must all understand. See, if we go to the spiritual world, not if actually, we will all go one day, but when we go to the spiritual world, for me it is if, but for all of you it is just a matter of time. So whenever we go to the spiritual world, to Goloka, or even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has his eternal planet. Within Golok Vrindavan, there are two parts. There is Navadvip and there is, the Krishna Loka. So Lord Chaitanya in the spiritual world also has his eternal abode. So that's a very interesting thing. And I said, those who are devotees of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna, which is all of us, then we will have two forms. We will have one form in Chaitanya Lila and one form in Krishna Lila, eternally. So that's something interesting. So this is tidbit information for you. So you will have more fun. You will eternally be in the Sankirtan Lila with Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda and others, where Krishna is enjoying eternally in the spiritual world being a devotee and chanting his own holy names. And another place with Radha and Krishna serving them with their associates. But the thing is, when you go to the spiritual world, and we will find that Krishna has a particular form which remains exactly like that in terms of age. Krishna doesn't grow up or diminish in the spiritual world. Krishna is around 14-15 years in Golok Vrindavan. Mahaprabhu is also a young man, perhaps around 20-24 years old. In Dwarka, eternally Krishna is around 24 years old. That kind of a bodily features form in terms of growth, in terms of a display of maturity as compared to our age on this planet. Just for us to get idea. It's not that that body is 15 years old. The body is eternal, but it looks like the equivalent of a 15-year-old boy in Golok Vrindavan. And eternally, it never grows beyond that age. So, trillions of years ago, Krishna looked exactly same as a 14-year-old boy, and today also he is looking like that in Golok Vrindavan. And trillions of creations later also he will look same. In the spiritual world, there is no baby Krishna. There's no baby Krishna. There's no crawling Krishna. There's no child Krishna. There's only Kishora Krishna. Nava Yauvana. Very beautiful Kaishora form. Kishore Kishori. This beautiful young boy and this teenage boy. Krishna is not even a very grown-up boy. It's a young, budding teenager. 14-15 years old, and Radharani 1 year younger, roughly. Kishore Kishori. Eternally. So those who are eternal residents of the spiritual world, they don't get the opportunity to see the Lord as a baby, as a small 5-year-old boy. These kind of pastimes cannot be witnessed in Golok Vrindavan. But by the Lord's internal energy, the Lord manifests those kind of forms showing equivalent ages of that body in the material world when the Lord manifests his divine pastimes in this material world, because he takes a human-like form, he shows human-like growth. The form is transcendental. The Lord never takes a material body. So don't think that it's a material body. It's a spiritual body. But through the Lord's internal energy, the body gradually grows from a small baby, day by day, by day, by day, by day. And doesn't even stop at 14. It continues to grow. Of course, the Lord's form, even in the material world, especially Krishna, grows up to 24. After 24, the Lord continues to look as 24. He doesn't look like 48. Even when he's 48, he looks like 24. When Krishna was in the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna was over 100 years in terms of how long he was on the planet. But do you look at him as a wrinkled person with a stick? No, he looks like a 24-year-old youth. Krishna doesn't get old. So why I'm mentioning this is that while the Lord, even Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, when they manifest in this world, they show these various ages. This kind of darshan of these kind of ages is very unique, and even the greatest of the devatas and even residents of the spiritual world hanker to get this kind of a darshan. So even the eternal associates of the Lord, they don't get the opportunity to associate with this form of the Lord, even in Goloka. So sometimes they want to come down to earth to participate in these kind of pastimes of the Supreme Lord on earth, because they want to see Krishna as a baby. Oh, wow, our Krishna as a baby, how wonderful he will be. So if they want to see this chubby, naughty, butter-stealing Krishna as a small boy running around, the one being chased by Mother Yashoda, that little Damodar, you can only see him here in Bhauma Vrindavan, not in Goloka Vrindavan. So in that sense, it's also very special, and we are also so fortunate we get the opportunity to get darshan and learn about the pastimes of all these beautiful forms. So similarly for Lord Chaitanya as well, I just wanted to emphasize this point, that the changing of the age and the various manifestations of the bodily features of growth, so on, are only manifested in the material world. The body of the Lord continues to remain spiritual. This kind of variation is manifested by the divine internal energy of the Lord. And this is not a material growth. Our growth happens because we eat food, and gradually through the DNA, our body, is programmed to grow in a particular way, and then certain bodily changes happen, hormonal changes happen, and God's body is not like that. Ajopi sannabhve atma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritim swam adhishtaya sambhavami atma maya. I appear through my atma maya, my own divine energy, not because of the combination of the Pancha Mahabhuta. So the Lord grew, so to say grew. So please understand, this is what I'm saying. They grow. This is just the Lord through his transcendental energy manifesting a different form of his Lila. He grew up and he started crawling on his knees. Many wonderful things started manifesting as the Lord started crawling. One of the favorite pastimes of the Lord when he was a very, very young baby was that whenever the Lord would cry, it is said the neighborhood ladies would all gather to see him. They would try to pacify him, but no matter what they did, little Nimai, Vishwambhar, would never be pacified. Then one lady would suddenly thought, let me chant Krishna's name. And they would start singing, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As soon as the chanting would start, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be immediately stop crying and be listening very attentively. And sometimes clapping his hands, sometimes swaying, sometimes dancing. And all the ladies would enjoy so much that the Lord is so absorbed in enjoying the chanting of the holy names. And then they would stop chanting. And then again the Lord would cry. So practically, whenever the ladies were around the Lord would somehow kind of force the ladies to continuously chant the holy names. So in that way, the Acharya said, kind of the Lord showed his future mission that he has come to induce others to chant the holy names. As the Lord continued to grow in his age, he started to move around, he started to walk around, he started making friends around Navadvip, so many other friends. He had some very close friends, Murari Gupta and a few others. And the Lord would just enjoy playing all kinds of sports. Just like Krishna enjoyed playing all kinds of sports, it is said Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, there was no game that they did not play. So you name a game and they would have played it. Now we may think of tennis, table tennis, football, basketball, all the games which ever existed, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna played. Not exactly with the same kind of a football field and a badminton net, but conceptually the same idea with very simple rustic equipment they would play. So it is said one day, as Lord Chaitanya was playing with his friends, Mother Sachi brought a dish to offer to him. It was a dish made with fused rice along with some sweetmeats. Sweetmeat means mithai. And she told, come, Vishwambar, Nimai, come and eat. So she gave it to little Nimai. The little boy, he was still very little. But when she gave him, then she went to do some household work. When Mother Sachi came back, she suddenly saw that instead of eating the sweet meat, Lord Chaitanya performed this pastime, that he was eating dirt instead. Dirt from the ground. Krishna also in his childhood would eat the dirt. There is this beautiful spot. I was there last week. The Brahmanda Ghat, where Yamuna flows and Krishna was eating dirt from the ground, and he opened the mouth and Mother Yashoda sees the whole universe inside Krishna's mouth. So this kind of beautiful pastimes happen. Here, of course, the pastime is slightly different. Mother Sachi became so angry, said, I give you first class, nice prasad, this sweet meat with fused rice. But instead of eating this, you are eating dirt. So Lord Chaitanya, he was making fun of his mother and he was trying to instruct through his mother the whole world. Through this particular pastime, the whole world. So little Nimai, he started crying and he told from his mother, oh, why are you angry with me, my dear mother? You have already given me dirt to eat. So what is my fault? She's surprised. I give you dirt to eat? Yes, because even all this fused rice and sweetmeats and all eatables are nothing but transformations of dirt. Everything comes from dirt means mud. Dirt is not kachra. Dirt, sometimes in India we think dirt means kachra. Dirt means basically dry soil is called as dirt. So dirt, mud, and all these things have different meaning. Anyway, I don't want to give an English class, but dirt here means basically the mitti on the ground. So because the plants draw everything from the mitti and they manifest vegetables, so this is also mitti, that is also mitti. What is the difference? You gave me sweet meats, but here there was mitti. This is mitti, that is mitti. What is the problem? Why are you becoming angry with me? This body is also a transformation of dirt. Because we put food in the mouth, no? From the food which is coming from the dirt, also our body is built. So that is also made up. So he was trying to, poke fun at her, but with a very philosophical motive. Try to say that, as if everything is one. So he was playing the role as if it is a, like a Mayavadi person who says, oh, I am God, you are God, everything is God, everything is one. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tried to play that role with his mother, asking her such a question by challenging her in such a way. But she was also very learned. When little Nimai argued like this, Mother Sachi, being very learned, she chastised him. She said, who has taught you this kind of foolish philosophical speculation that you can eat dirt? This is a very wrong idea. My dear boy, when the dirt on the ground becomes transformed into grain, and from that grain, when we cook and we eat, then our body becomes nourished. But if the same dirt we eat directly and put in our mouth, we will be diseased. We will get disease and we will spoil our health. Your argument is not correct. That transformation is essential to consider. You cannot just say both things are equal. Just think of it like this, my dear little boy. From an earth, a water pot is made. And in that water pot, you can put water and drink it from an earthen pot. But if I simply put water into a lump of dirt, can I drink water from there? It will simply become, the dirt would simply soak up the water and become like mud. And all my labor will become useless. So don't think like that. So she tried to explain to him like that you need to consider. And this is the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya actually, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which talks about Shakti Parinambad, how the energies of the Lord become transformed. And it is very important for us to understand that even though ultimately everything is coming from the same source, we have to consider the various transformations of that energy so that we can derive the right benefit from the right right manifestations of the energy. When Mother Sachi explained like that, Lord Chaitanya Nimai became very happy. He said, oh, this is very wonderful. Why did you conceal this information about self-realization? This philosophy that you are talking now is actually so practical and so logical that you should have explained to me earlier. Now that I understand this perfectly, I will not, no more I will eat dirt. So now whenever I'm hungry, I will come and run to you and I want to drink your milk. And again, the Lord becomes so affectionate towards his mother. He again jumped on her lap and started drinking her milk. So this was one sweet pastime, how the Lord, through his mother, spoke this highest truth. That just because everything is ultimately coming from the Lord, we cannot just say everything is equal. So this is a common mistake done by many spiritualists, that they say, oh, sarvam khalvidam brahma, everything is of the nature of the absolute truth. Yes, in one sense, yes. But at the same time, doesn't mean everything is the same. Much in the same way that Mother Sachi has explained. We need to consider there is the Lord, there is the Jiva, there is the external energy, there is the internal energy. All these aspects need to be considered properly. Only then we'll be able to make proper spiritual progress. Also, across the childhood of the Lord, even though most of the times the Lord hid his own opulences as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there were many episodes in the early childhood pastimes of the Lord that the Lord displayed and manifested to the world that he is the Supreme Personality of God. Correct. And just like Krishna also, right? And generally he was a little boy doing mischief, running around here and there. But every day or every other day, he would be killing some demon. He'll be sucking out the life from Putana. He'll be killing Trinavarta, killing Agasur, beating the life out of Kamsa, lifting Govardhan Hill. Just like Lord Krishna would do wonderful things, Lord Chaitanya also in his childhood pastimes, time and again, would manifest his divine Lila. Sometimes in public, but very often in private. Because Krishna's incarnation, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's incarnation is very special because he's a Channa avatar. Channa avatar means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never wanted to openly present himself as the Supreme Personality of God because he wanted, the purpose of his incarnation was to play the role of a devotee. He did not want to take the role of the Lord. Krishna took the role of the Lord many times. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did manifest at times his role as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just in his childhood pastime, but also in his later pastime. But he did that in a very, very small private circle of his very intimate devotees. And we'll be discussing those pastimes a little later. So I want to share what is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavad as some of these very sweet pastimes of these early years where the Lord manifested his divine pastime. And generally, when the Lord displays these very, very special opulences, the Lord does this kind of Lila not to impress or to prove that he is the Lord to the world. God is not actually interested. The Lord doesn't care about what atheists think, because anyway they are rejecting him. But the Lord does this mainly to give his blessings to his devotees who are hankering for his association. So there is one pastime I want to mention, which is mentioned in one verse. Now that pastime can take 15 minutes to narrate, but I'll try to narrate it in 3 minutes. Okay, and we have 8 minutes left in the class. So definitely I cannot complete the chapter today. But I think I don't want to rush too fast, because if I give you one line pastimes, then you will not be able to appreciate the pastimes. And the second thing is, we may not get to the point of discussing Chaitanya Bhagavad in a detailed way, at least in the near future. Maybe Krishna willing in the future sometime. But I want to spend some time describing the details of some of these pastimes. So one very special pastime happened. This happened when the Lord was still very, very small. So small that he was barely able, he was generally crawling, but barely able to walk around, barely able to stand on his feet. So there was one Brahmana, very, very great devotee of Lord Vishnu, of Lord Gopal. He would travel from place to place. Now this Brahmana was very special. Not only was he a very great devotee, but it is said he would be traveling with his deity of Gopal. And this Brahmana, it is said, his vow was that, I think he would perhaps be eating only once a day or something. He will cook the food himself. He will not even eat food cooked by anyone else. He will only cook himself, offer the food to his own deity, and only that prasad he will eat. Actually, there are many devotees like this who do this kind of a vrat, which means I will not eat food cooked by anyone else other than myself. And they will cook, offer to their deities and eat that. So some of them do like that. So that kind of vrat this Brahmana had. And he was traveling from place to place, and he came to Navadvip, and he happened to visit and become a guest at the house of Jagannath Mishra, the father of Lord Chaitanya. So little boy Nimai was already in that house. Of course, the Brahmana had no idea who this boy Nimai was. So he came and reached in the evening, and Jagannath Mishra said, "Oh, we are so happy and we are so honored that you have come here to our home and blessing our house with the dust of your lotus feet. You are such a great devotee. We are so happy. We want to serve you. Please tell us. We will cook a nice feast for you, and you please accept the prasad." He said, No. Sorry, I don't accept food by anyone. I will cook and offer myself. So says, okay, if that is your vrata, we can do that. So what can we do? He said, just give me some little bit of rice, uncooked rice, and some ingredients he asked for. And said, you give me, I will cook myself and I will offer. So they all said, yes, it's fine. So they gave him the ingredients, and this Brahmana, he cooked the food. It was already close to evening time. He cooked, and then after that he made that simple offering. He kept it in front of his Gopal deity, and he closed his eyes and he started ringing the bell to offer the Naivedya to Krishna. And with great devotion, he was calling, "Oh Krishna, oh Gopal, please come and accept my offering." Now we should understand one thing as practicing devotees. If with great faith and love, we offer something to the Lord says, "I promise that I will eat it." Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. Whoever offers with love, prayatatmanaha, ashnami, says, "I eat it." Even if it is patram pushpam, even if it is a leaf or flower. So that love is so compelling for the Lord becomes very attracted by the loving offering of his devotees. The Lord hankers to eat the loving offering. For those who are great devotees, the Lord doesn't even wait for them sometimes to ring the bell. They are cooking, they will come. Even if they don't offer, the Lord will come and grab it. Because the Lord knows that whatever they cook is so much full of love for him. That's why he's to go and eat butter at the house. Of course, we should not think we are like that and we just tell the Lord, "Lord, I'm cooking. Whenever you want, you come and have." Please don't do like this. And when we reach that level, the Lord will come and take our food. Until then, we have to ring the bell and offer. We'll see. So he was offering because he was following externally as a ritual. Ritual, of course, he was a great devotee, but he was doing the ritual of offering. Oh, Brahmanda Devaya, Brahmanda Hitaya, Jagat Hitaya, Krishnaya, Govindaya. He was closing his eyes. And with such great love, he was calling to the Lord. In the other room, little Nimai was there. Little Nimai heard his prayers and so he's calling me to eat. Little Nimai came, he crawled into the room. And the offering which was placed in front of the Gopal deity, Lord Chaitanya grabbed the offering and he started putting it in his mouth. And started eating it. And the Brahmana opened his eyes as he was ringing the bell and he saw, "Oh, this boy is eating the offering to Gopal." And he was like, "Hi, hi." He was like, shouting, "What is this? My offering is spoiled. I'm offering here and this little boy came and ate my offering even as I was offering. Now everything is spoiled." So as he was shouting like that, Jagannath Mishra, Sachi Mata, all the ladies in the house, they all came running and they saw what had happened and they said, "Oh, Maharaj, we are so sorry. This little boy, he doesn't know, he's very small. He accidentally came here. We don't know how he came here. Sorry. But he says, okay, never mind. He's a small boy." So he says, "No, I think Krishna doesn't want me to eat today. Because the offering is spoiled. Now I cannot eat because it is not offered to the Lord. It has been eaten by somebody else. So I cannot offer. So I'm going to fast today." Said, "No. This will be a great offense for us if you fast in our house. So please cook again." So you're saying, "No, it's already getting late. I want to take rest and I want to get up early and do my japa." I don't know whether he said like that. I'm just extrapolating it, but he said, "No, I don't want to cook again." But he said, No, it will be a great offense. Please cook." So they somehow convinced him to cook again. And they again gave him fresh ingredients, fresh vessels, fresh everything to cook. And he said, "Okay, fine." And he started cooking again. And Jagannath Mishra told the ladies of the house, "You take care of Nimai. You make sure, he doesn't create any disturbance. You go and play with him, watch over him." And this Brahmana again cooked his meal. I don't know how long it took. Maybe half an hour, 45 minutes or more. He again cooked his offering, again laid out the food in front of his deity Gopal. And again he started chanting, "Namo Brahmanda Devaya, Brahmanda Hitaya, Jagadhitaya." Little Nimai heard the prayer. "Oh, he's calling me to eat." Little Nimai was that time, chanting and dancing with all the neighborhood ladies who were in the house, in the same house. They had come and they were trying to keep him busy so he doesn't disturb the Brahman. But as the chanting was going on there, the ladies became so blissful in the Sankirtan that they didn't realize when Nimai slipped out of that group. And he went into the room where this Brahmana was doing his offering. And again, Nimai put his hand into the offering and he put it in his mouth. The Brahmana opened his eyes and to his great shock, he saw a repetition of what had just happened. And he was like, oh, hi, what has happened? This little boy has spoiled my offering again. Again, Jagannath Mishra and all the members of the family, they came and they saw what had happened and they didn't realize, oh, we were taking care of the child. What happened? You ladies, you were supposed to watch over him. No, we didn't realize when he left us. Everybody was trying to figure out what happened. So again, they were begging forgiveness. Sorry. We are so apologetic. We tried, but somehow we don't know how this happened. But he was a tolerant Brahmana. He said, okay, never mind. See, I told you, Krishna doesn't want me to eat today. So now, it's very late. I really want to go to sleep now. I don't want to eat. I think Krishna wants me to fast. I said, no, please. Cook. They said, no, please, just one last time. Please cook. So somehow or the other they convinced. And it was very late at night for that little Brahman. So they took Nimai in a room, they locked the room. And as the Brahmana was cooking very late into the night, everybody in the home had fallen asleep and Nimai was in the locked room. Probably with his parents and others. Everything was quiet, nobody else was there. He made the nice offering. And again, very late in the night, he was offering all the ingredients and the nice offering he was chanting mantra. Even though everybody was sleeping, little Nimai got up. Even though the doors were locked, the Lord escaped from the room. Of course, who can bind the Lord when he is attracted by the loving devotion of his devotee? Came out, he again went into the room. He again ate the offering. Again the Brahmana saw. And again he started shouting, hi, what has happened? But this time nobody woke up. Everybody was fast asleep. When this happened for the third time, little Nimai, he spoke to the Brahman. He said, what is this? Again and again you are cooking offering. Again and again you are calling me to eat. And when I am coming personally to eat, you are scolding me why I am eating. What kind of offering is this? Because he did not realize that this boy is Gopal himself. Then Nimai started explaining to him, oh Brahmana, in your previous life, you were a Brahmana who visited the house of Nanda and Yashoda in Vrindavan. And in a very similar manner, you stayed in their home, and that time also I had come and eaten your offering and performed a very similar pastime. You are my eternal devotee. And I am so attracted to the loving devotion of my devotees that I love to reciprocate with them. So again in this lifetime, I have come to reciprocate your love and personally eat the offerings that you have made. You are my eternal devotee. And you'll be going back to the spiritual world. And then little Nimai displayed his transcendental form as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in front of this Brahmana to show that he is none other than Krishna himself. The Brahmana was besides himself. Can you imagine suddenly, this boy transforms into Krishna? Imagine you see something like that. He was just dancing and jumping and rolling on the ground, seeing the transcendental form of the Krishna. Nimai warned him, don't tell to anybody who I am. This is a secret. This is special darshan only for you. Don't tell anybody. But he was so excited. He was jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. And when all that noise of the jumping happened and he was screaming and rolling, and with tears in his eyes, the other family members woke up. And they came into the room. Said, what happened? What happened? The Brahmana was so excited. He wanted to tell Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata that your son is Krishna himself. But the Lord had warned him, don't you tell anything and spoil my pastimes. So he wanted to tell, but he couldn't tell, but he was jumping. And as he was jumping, he was eating the rice, the prasad, after Lord had eaten. And he was not just eating the prasad, the rice grains, he was pasting it over his body and he was rolling in the grains that were fallen on the floor. And Jagannath Mishra, Sachimata and others were thinking, what happened? Why he went mad? Huh? What is this? So they asked him, what happened? They just saw Nimai also said, what happened? Did your offering happen? I hope there was no problem this time. He said, no, this time the offering was successful. And then he said to Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata, you are so fortunate. So you have no idea how fortunate you are. Of course, they couldn't understand why he was so excited. But anyway, they were happy that he was satisfied and blissful at the end of this whole episode. Of course, the Brahmana, the Lord Chaitanya told the Brahmana that after that, don't stay here in this pastime. This is all the darshan that I'm going to give you. You continue to travel and continue to chant my holy name and continue to worship this deity form of mine. After this life, you will come back to me to Golok Vrindavan. So the Brahmana, did like that. He kept his mouth sealed. But of course, the Acharyas have revealed these beautiful pastimes. So I'm going to stop here. The last 15 minutes were one verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the next verse is another 5-7 minutes. I have to tell you the detailed pastime. All these details are in Chaitanya Bhagavat. So I want to go a little slower in this chapter because these pastimes are very, very sweet. Are you okay if I go slow? Are you enjoying listening to these pastimes, or you want me to go faster? Please tell me.
Yes, okay, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I hope I'm not a very good narrator. When great souls describe these pastimes, they describe in such a beautiful way that it charms the heart. I'm just very small and insignificant. I'm just trying to repeat whatever I've heard. But this is the beautiful nature of the Lord and how he very beautifully charms the heart of his people. So like this was one pastime where the Lord revealed his transcendental personality, and there are many others, and we'll discuss some more from this chapter itself. So we have completed up to verse 37 today. There are around 96 or 97 verses in this chapter. I think we should be able to complete the chapter the next week, Krishna willing. So we will continue. So I want to stop here for today. Anyone has any questions or comments? I'm happy to take.
Beautiful.
Yes, sorry, who was that? I think Siniji was wanting to say something.
No, Prabhuji, beautiful narration. That's what I wanted to tell.
Thank you. Thank you. So the pastimes of the Lord are very attractive to the heart. So when we hear these pastimes which are recorded by the great souls, our hearts become attracted. And that is why when we visit the holy dham, the primary purpose for us to visit the holy places should be to visit the places of the pastimes and hear these pastimes with great love and affection in the places where they have happened, because there's tremendous spiritual potency in that. And many people fail to understand. They just think that, oh, I have to go to the holy dham and just take darshan, just see the deity, take a little prasad and come back. That is not our system. If you want real transformation of the heart, then that is what we have. So even when I went to Vrindavan, every place we went, we sat there and heard and prayed, heard the pastime deeply in a very absorbed way, and praying very hard to the Lord at that particular place to be kind to us. Thank you. There was somebody asking a question. Who was that?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes,
Sridhar
yes,
Prabhu.
Sridharji. Yes, yes.
Yeah, Prabhuji, so it's related to other topic. So somehow like if the devotee is not completed in this life, so in the next life will be born in Brahman family or in a rich family, right? So Brahmana means okay, it's there is a chances to have like a more devotional, but in rich family, how come it is right?
Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Bhrashto Abhijayate. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that either the yogi who has not completed his devotion either is born in a rich aristocratic family or in a family of learned transcendentalist. Now, when we say learned transcendentalist, they may be Brahmana, they may not be Brahmana. Being Brahmana by Varna consideration is not the most important thing, but the Lord says Suchinam. Suchinam means very pure families. It is possible that the family may not be of Brahmanical background, but they may be very pure. Huh? The Pandavas were not Brahmanas, they were Kshatriyas, but they are very pure. Great devotees. So I just want to emphasize, first of all, it is not necessarily a Brahmana family. It may be, but it may be any family which is very pure and very devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It could even be from a Shudra background. It depends. Now, why the Lord would make them born in that particular circumstances is based on various things. So that is the first thing to note. And the second thing is, Prabhupada explains in the purport to that verse that those who are not very advanced in the spiritual practice and those who still have material desires, they are generally born into rich aristocratic families, where the families are rich and pious but may not be very advanced devotees or very pure families. They are generally religious but not very pure. Why? So that in the next life, that not so developed yogi doesn't have to struggle with his material necessities, but rather that they can focus on their spiritual advancement in the next life. And that is the Srimatam Gehe. Srimata means those who are wealthy. But he says, Prabhupada explains, those who are more advanced, they are not hankering for becoming born in rich families. For them, they become born in the family of great transcendentalists. They are born in family of great devotees. Why? Because in such families, Prabhupada says, right from their early childhood, such yogis who have not completed their devotion get the opportunity to be trained in spiritual life from a very early age. So to be born in a pure family, Shuchinam family, is a much higher attainment than being born in a rich family. It is possible that one may be born in a family which is both Shuchinam and Shrimatam. That is possible. It doesn't have to be either. It can be both, which is even more wonderful. But of course, that depends on what the Lord, thinks is suitable for us to be born in. But that is the point. For those who are more advanced, that is why birth in the family of devotees, especially very advanced devotees who are dedicated to service to the Lord, is considered a very, very special attainment. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, Prabhuji. So from Brahmana's perspective, okay, and in the rich family, there are more chances to fall down, right? Morely attached to this material world.
If they are pious, so these people are not sinful rich people that we are talking about. We are talking about pious rich people. May not be very spiritual rich people, but at least they must be pious. So yes, whenever a person is in an environment where it is very rich, then there is always a possibility that one may get attached. So that is why this kind of an opportunity is given to those who are not very advanced in devotion, and because they still have some material desires to fulfill. So Krishna gives births in reciprocation to the desire of the yogi. If the yogi has the kind of desires to fulfill their material aspirations also, then the Lord gives this birth. In fact, oftentimes the Lord makes such yogis take birth, who have material desires, take birth in heavenly planets first. That's what the Gita says, right? Shuchinam loke. They attain the planets where the pious people dwell and they stay there. Ushitva Shashwati hi samaha. They reside there for long, long time and enjoy the fruits of their pious activities. Why? Because if there are material desires that the yogi still has, the Lord gives the opportunity to that particular living entity, if he's not very advanced, to also give him an opportunity to satisfy those material desires in a dharmic way. Of course, this kind of a situation is also dangerous. But if that is the desire of the yogi, it's all based on the desire of the yogi. So that's why some yogis are Mishra Bhaktas, some yogis are pure Bhaktas, and the yogis are Mishra Bhaktas. Or sometimes not even Mishra Bhaktas, but they are yogis with very little bhakti, that they may attain to such kind of destination. So for us, what this means is, the lesson for us is, we must not, our aspiration must be that we want to, as quickly as possible, go back to the spiritual world. We don't want to waste our time by going to the heavenly planets. Because if we go to the heavenly planets, Lord Chaitanya's movement here is going to be only for 10,000 years. We go to the heavenly planets, by the time we take the next birth, after we have exhausted enjoying our lifespan in the heavenly planets, when we come down, it will be Ghor Kali Yuga. And it will be very difficult to make spiritual advancement, and Lord Chaitanya's movement may not be around at that time, or will not be around at that time after 10,000 years. So our aspiration as sadhakas must be that, oh Lord, if I don't perfect my life now, please help me to arrange to be born in a family of great devotees. Of course, if they are also rich or not rich, we leave it to the Lord, based on what is good for us in a particular situation. So that I can continue to serve you, so that I don't waste my time in enjoying material benefits. So when a devotee has this kind of a consciousness, the Lord will also fulfill. The Lord will also say, yes, why should I waste this devotee's time going to heavenly planets? Let him immediately take birth in a family of devotees.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. So that's why as devotees, or as practicing devotees, for all of us, when we have children born into our families, we have this very special responsibility to provide all the facility to them to become advanced in devotion. That itself is a very great service. Of course, sometimes very great devotees may be born in families which are not very advanced, which may seem neither Shuchinam nor Srimata. But the Lord does that as a special reason for some special. There are always exceptions. And ultimately, all decisions that the Lord takes is based on the simple calculation of what is best for the spiritual advancement of that devotee. So sometimes there may be exceptions, but this is the general guiding principle. Okay, because sometimes you may see that, oh, this great devotee was not born. For example, Haridas Thakur, he's a pure devotee. He was neither born in a rich family nor in a rich family. Yeah? I'm not very sure. His father was, kind of a Maulana in the Muslim community. I don't know whether he was rich or not. But there are other devotees who are born in, sometimes not in a very wonderful background, but they grew up to be great devotees. So ultimately the Lord will decide, but of course our preference is that, given a choice, we want to be born in the family of devotees. Anything else? Okay, so thank you all very much. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samved Gora Bhakta.
Jai.
So we are
Thank
going
you,
to,
Prabhuji.
thank you. So we are going to aim to have the class on Saturday. If my schedule suddenly, goes for a toss, I will let you know, because it's a little unpredictable and sometimes there are a lot of things to do and adjust. So if at all it is not possible, I'll let you know. But as of now, it seems possible. Thank you. There is, by the way, Mokshada Ekadashi fasting on Sunday. Yes, but the Ekadashi Tithi, at least in India, the Ekadashi itself starts on Saturday, and the Gita Jayanti festivities to be observed on Saturday. But the fasting of the Ekadashi Vrat is on Sunday. So just so that you are not confused. Because the fasting is based on certain calculations of when the Ekadashi Tithi begins and when it ends. So even if the Ekadashi Tithi begins on the previous day, sometimes the fasting is on the second day. So that you are not confused. So please check your local calendars for your fasting. But I think as far as I know, for most of the locations, at least in this part of the hemisphere, it is 3rd December is the Gita Jayanti, the Mokshada Ekadashi Gita Jayanti celebration, but the fasting Vrata is on Sunday. Okay, so thank you all very much, and I will see you all soon on Ekadashi day.
Thank you, Prabhu.
In the evening when we
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Jai
Thank you,
Shri
Prabhuji.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Jai.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna and thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Sachi Prema Mataji. Thank you, Sinuji, Shalini. Thank you all for your encouragement and for participating regularly. Hare Krishna.